Wow, it's kind of really
Hello.
liking the music there. Thank you, Dawn J&J Video, for that excellent intro and these pictures and just putting together the stream for us while I've been so crazy busy all day. I really appreciate it, and I
It's
am
all
really
good. It's all
excited.
good. Shout out to Jen for the
Can you
background.
see if Oh, that's right. Thank you, Jen. Jen is designing us. She designed the logo for the for J&J Video for the daytime stream. We put it on there. The logo she sent, and now this background. It looks excellent. And do you see if Meryl is here? Do you see her?
Meryl is here. Meryl is here.
All right. That's great. That brings us to our topics that we want to discuss tonight, which I feel is such an important topic that I'm so passionate about because I feel like, a lot of people, when you have to think about changing your diet and now going plant based, I learned about this when I was 42 years old. I wish I had known and that someone had made a stream like this for my, parents and grandparents so that they could get the other side of the information. We're told so many myths about what is healthy and what is not. So I want to discuss childhood nutrition, and we have like such a excellent guest here to talk about it and to talk about the upcoming summit that we're going to be talking about. And she has so many titles here. It is just great to have her with us. She's going to tell us a little bit more about what she does. But we have
Do we want to
Meryl
go ahead and
Fury.
do we want to
Uh,
play the video that Meryl did, and that way we can let everybody know what's happening, and then bring Meryl in?
Yeah, let me just give her a little bit of an intro before the video. She's going to be hosting a summit that we're going to talk about, but she is MSRN President and CEO of PBNM. So I'm excited to have her. Let's play that video then.
Oh, hey, come on in. So glad to see you here. Welcome. You've arrived at the 6 Million Seeds 2022 Decade of Child Nutrition Summit. We have 4 days of inspiration and how-tos. We're ready to kick off a revolutionary decade of excellence in child nutrition. And it's all been created with you and your family in mind. Before I go any further, I'd like to say a big thank you. This event would not have been possible without the tireless support of the National Health Association. We owe Wanda and Mark Huberman a huge debt of gratitude for collaborating with us, that's Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, on this first ever 6 Million Seeds Summit. Many, many thanks to them for working with us and helping us pull it all together. Now, the purpose of this summit is to shine a bright light on the different facets of how our children eat and the effects that that has on the kids, their families, and on the planet. Here are 5 things you'll get out of this event. By the end of day 4, you'll walk away with a clear understanding of the connection between the food your children eat and how it affects their behavior and their ability to learn. 2, you'll know at least 3 foods you can increase or decrease to support your family's total health and protect them from colds, flus, and viruses. 3, you'll be able to see the connection between how we feed our children and the health of the planet. 4, you'll have tips, tricks, and recipes to get you started or to keep you rolling. And 5, you'll have access to an amazing supportive community of like-minded people on the same path, and so, so much more. We are certain this will be a rich, deep, and powerful experience. To get the most out of the summit, we encourage you to keep pencil, paper, pen, tablet, computer, something handy so you can take notes during the presentations. We also recommend that you take advantage of the VIP upgrade so you can have lifetime access to these amazing sessions, and you can refer to them as your children grow and as your situations change. Thanks again for being here to support the kids and the planet. This is an amazing event. You're going to love it. See you on the inside.
Welcome. Hi, Meryl.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we
We
can.
can.
I couldn't get myself off mute, and I was telling you I could help you with how to work it, and you already are way ahead of me. Welcome.
All
It's so
right.
great to have you here. We're very
Yeah,
honored.
nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me. This is so much fun.
Definitely. Well, I just wanted to say that, what you're doing is so important. That's why I wanted to have you here. And I know a lot of the people that listen to this stream, and some people can't make it live, but I know they catch the replays. And a lot of the people that listen, most of them are parents. And I think it's
Excellent.
so important for them to hear this, because it's one thing coming from me, but when you think about all the things they can learn at this summit, it really makes a difference, because there's so many myths out there that we're told about how to raise our kids and how we should eat. So let you tell us a little bit about what you do, and let you give yourself a better intro than I did, because I know there's so much more.
Well, like I said, thanks so much for inviting me. Um, okay, so tell me, one of you is Jen, right?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, good. Thanks for inviting me. So my name is Meryl Fury. I'm a registered nurse. I spent 30 years as a public health nurse working with some pretty poorly I'll just say just underserved populations, people who had very desperate, difficult circumstances and minimal resources to manage them. And in the course of doing that kind of work, it gets to be pretty clear what's lacking, and it's not necessarily access to healthcare. That's one thing that's lacking. But a lot of what's lacking is just plain basic healthy food and nutrition. Um, so anyway, I had the fortune to be able to retire early in 2020 and took the lead at this nonprofit called Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. I'd already been there for about a year, but with retiring, I was able to become president and CEO full time, and that's very rewarding work. In the last 2 years since COVID hit, the mission of the organization has changed. We had been focused kind of all on kind of heart issues, diabetes, that sort of thing. And then when COVID hit, it became even more obvious that people who had minimal resources were having some of the worst effects of COVID. We switched our mission to focus on populations that just have it the worst of everybody, right? The ones who never have access to healthcare or always get diseases worse than everybody else. And within that, what became super clear is that children across the board are the most vulnerable population we have. They rely on the adults around them, and they're always subject to whatever's blowing by. The kids have no, what we say, they have no autonomy or agency. They have no independence, and and they're not empowered to do anything themselves. And that's by law, and because they're kids, right? So we started doing programming that was focused specifically on kids this past January. And so we're coming up on a year of working specifically with kids, and that's just my passion. I love working with that group
That's
and to try and
amazing.
make a difference for them.
Wow, that is excellent. And I'm happy to learn about the organization too, because we definitely want to support that in any way we can. Like, I always say that, you know, when I became plant-based and I really delved into this world and found out how it is how our body was really meant to eat, and or what it was meant to fuel it, and that the other things that we were putting in, and that some stuff that it was even recommended by the food guidelines, is actually hurting us and giving us you know, making us susceptible to diseases. And I was like, how is it that we know all of this information? However, because I guess it's because of, maybe money, the industry, that our hospitals and our schools are not already plant based to put that nutrition, at least if they're going to go to a public school and be fed something, or have that presented to them, we should be the ones that are putting the right things in their body and not giving them something that's going to make them sick, and has gives them a higher risk for type 2 diabetes. And if their parents are not giving them the right thing at home, that's something we've got to delve deeper in, which you're working on in your organization. We've got to get that information in their hands, but at least at school we could be providing them the right food.
Yeah, yeah. School is actually the most, well, I won't say it's the most challenging. It's all challenging. Our environment,
Hmm.
our society in general is challenging for food. But school is very difficult because the laws and the rules around what kids are served at school, what's allowed to be served, how much, um, how often, and what it costs is all controlled by the US Department of Agriculture. And that organization
Hmm.
um, is controlled by large corporations who have money to lobby and have money to pay for time to speak to the people that staff that agency. So it's run primarily and supports primarily large agribusinesses like the beef and the dairy councils and highly animal centric and processed food groups have the biggest sway at the USDA. So that's what our children's school food programs look like. So I don't know, what part of the country are you in, Jen?
In Maryland,
Okay,
on the East
so I'm in
Coast.
Wisconsin, and it's probably the same everywhere across the country. It really doesn't matter, I'm sure. It
But
might vary.
Wisconsin has a lot of uh, farming, I know, so that's probably a big.
Wisconsin's the dairy state.
Yep, the cheese hats. We've seen it on
Yes, we
the.
have that. Cheese and brats and beer. That's what we
We
have
need
in
to make
Wisconsin.
some vegan cheese hats, right?
But yeah, so the a typical school meal, you know, is going to look like breakfast could be Pop Tarts, sweetened cereal, cow's milk, fruit, another maybe chocolate milk, could be donuts, could be little containers
Whoever's
of.
paying that month, huh?
Say it again.
Whoever is paying the most that month, I guess, to get their foods in the cafeterias, in a
You
sense.
know, it's all done by contract. Most of the schools
Mhm.
don't even have kitchens anymore. There's very little
Wow.
cooking that goes on in schools now. It's mostly all provided by large food corporations like Sodexo or some of these, I can't even name them all, Gordon Food Service or something like that. It all comes prepackaged. So children get packages, plastic packages of food that they open and eat. It's pretty bad here in Wisconsin. Maybe about a year ago, there was a young lady in one of the high schools who actually started a petition just to get the school board to look at the quality of food, because the kids here were seeing like chicken sandwiches, spicy chicken sandwiches that were not cooked. They
Oh,
were raw on the inside, and there's no way to cook them. They were getting ham and cheese sandwiches where the ham was black and green,
oh
going
my.
just rotten. You know, yeah. It's
And
the school food program is a big animal all by itself.
these are, these are young people who they don't have some of them may know, but I mean, how young is that? Kids start going to school at a very young age, so they don't, they wouldn't know how to even bring that up in some cases, or if they're even eating it and don't even know it, just because that they know they're supposed to eat what's on the plate. So it's a scary thing that that's what's going into our body. Not to mention just the whole thing about the meat and dairy, but then to bring into that's a whole even another with the processed food. At least if it were whole foods, it would be different, but it's processed foods too that they're getting fed. And it's like it's become a more, in my mind, I know it's not exactly like that, but with contracts and these bigger corporations, it's become more of a business, like everything. I just want to say welcome to a couple of people, Anita, Jessica, and Ariella. Welcome. We missed you last week. I'm glad you were able to return. Um, and Meryl, we're here with our guests, and again, Dawn, who's by the name there of J&J Video. Thank you so much for everything you did to help us put together the stream and the video and everything too. And
You are
there's
so welcome.
I said this to Dawn last night. Actually, I said, when we're watching TV, we see so many, every commercial, that comes on just about last night was a ask your doctor if this is right for you. Do you have this? Do you have that? And here's the side effects. And I'm like, why is there not an equally empowering, like if we all got together as people who believe in the plant-based movement, who know it can reverse and heal us, is it possible that we could somehow put together some type of organization that could compete and at least put the information on the national media, just like these, or not even national, but I mean, we were watching reality TV on what, like Discovery Plus or something, like somewhere. I know they have this new Peeled TV network, but it's basically people are watching it that are already geared towards plant based. Like somewhere in the media, I wish there was a way we could all gather together and get that put out there. Like, hey, guess what? This person healed their, type 2 diabetes with a plant based diet. That is never shown anywhere on any commercial, yet I see 150 different commercials for how to manage your type 2 diabetes, for example. It's frustrating, and I know that I'm so happy to see, folks like you who are getting in there and like creating these organizations or being a part of them that are trying to educate people, because I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. The way, I mean, you can look at it like this: for generations now, the media and food companies and our government and pharmaceutical companies have been working very diligently to train us in a way about how to live and how to manage our health or not manage it, how to eat or not eat, right? They've been training us for a long time. We've been very well groomed for the last probably at least 2 generations, probably longer now. So we have this understanding that, first of all, our bodies are a mystery to us. We don't know how to manage anything here, right?
Hmm.
What can I do? I can take Pepto Bismol on the least end of it, all the way up to chemotherapy on the strongest end of it, and none of that do I understand or know how to manage, right? Myself, I have to go ask my doctor about
Hmm.
that, right? We don't have any of the basic knowledge of natural medicine, herbology, what foods to take, what foods to avoid, nothing. We don't have any of that. That's been stripped away over years. So we're at the mercy of
Well,
these
milk does a
large
body
corporations,
good.
right?
We hear
That's
the
right.
mercy of the
We are
slogans.
we are at the mercy of them, and our kids are even at more of the mercy because they don't have like anything to draw on except what comes over the TV or what they see on video games is another source of advertising. What they see, what they hear on radio, and what they hear in just all over the place. It doesn't stop. Those advertisings and that advertisement and that what I call it's like a torrent that these kids are standing in, getting washed over all the time by this nonsense about how to take care of yourself. Milk does a body good, or you need to eat meat to grow strong bones, or
Right.
um, just
You
all
need
kind. Eat
protein.
this sweetened cereal; it's good for you, and or just all kinds of stuff. It's craziness. It's
You
craziness.
know, I love when they take a sweetened cereal and I see on the label they put contains 9 vitamins and minerals or something to that effect. Like they've
Mhm.
taken that there's vitamins and minerals in it and diminished everything else that is in it, including the cow's milk they're probably giving, with it. Hi, Brooke. Welcome. Thank you for coming, my little sister. And it's
Hey,
interesting
Brooke, how
to
you
hear.
doing, sweetheart?
Um, Dawn, I know you probably have a lot to talk on with that, with what she said, and we're always very thankful for the healthcare system because, it is something that is so very necessary, and I'm like so grateful for doctors and nurses and everything that they do. I think it comes down to education and not having the industry get a hold of how we help cure people and getting curing people and reversing disease needs to become just as important as managing it. And I think that's where that comes in what we always talk about not getting into the system. And I know like Dawn does her show in midday every day at 12:30 p.m. where she talks a lot about the mind and like some things that we try to get over fears that we have and anxiety. And I know like you were talking about the pandemic kind of changed everything, and it just put into perspective how everything is treated, where we're not supposed to know this or that. We don't know, the more we're kept in the dark about it. But I know Dawn talks a lot about not letting the medical system get in her head as a cancer survivor, and not, continuing to go down that road and kind of taking matters into her own hands to heal naturally. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that because we're used to going to your doctor, like you said, asking your doctor what's right for you.
You become a number. See, and that's the problem. So many, and not all of them, but so many doctors and so many of the healthcare, so much of the healthcare industry has become about the business of it and not so much treating the root causes of a lot of the issues that people have. They'll treat symptoms, they'll write prescriptions all day long, but when it gets to the root cause, it's almost like, it's more advantageous for them to keep you sick, so that they can still continue to get paid. But, like I said, all of the medical professions not like that. There are plenty of doctors, nurses, who take people's well-being, it's top priority, and
It's just the overall industry of it is where the mistake, or that's
yeah.
what's happened
Meryl,
to
I'm
us
sure
over
you're one of
time.
them because you're preaching plant-based, and that's something that we always yell, when you see doctors and things prescribe, talk to them about their diet. Hello, but they're not nutritionists. They're doctors. So, in all fairness, you know what I mean? But I love the fact
No,
that you're spearheading this because anyone in medical profession, you guys have a lot more credibility than we do. People believe what you say more so than us. You know what I mean? So
right.
when you say it's your diet, you might want to consider going plant-based. You're going to get a lot more results.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the other thing, which you guys probably already know. In medical school and nursing school, we don't learn about diet. We learn nothing.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured.
Absolutely nothing. The average
Because you're not
doctor in
it's two
whatever
totally
12 years
separate
of,
professions.
say it again.
It's two totally separate professions, nutritionist versus a doctor. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and I'll tell
So
you, even beyond that, nutritionists or dietitians fall under medical. So they don't get a full spectrum, a full picture of nutrition either. What we get is diabetes, you need to control your carbohydrates and maybe some of your fats, and
hmm
you need to walk. And we need to refer you to the dietitian, and the dietitian is going to give you all the very tight breakdown of what that means. We'll get a little bit about what to do if somebody has Crohn's disease, maybe, or if they have kidney failure, maybe, or something like that. We got a little bit about how to feed an infant, but other than that, the world of diet and nutrition is it's not discussed. What's discussed is medications, surgeries, treatments. That's it. Procedures.
absolutely.
That's what you get. Doctors learn about like what we call parenteral feeding, so how to put food in through someone's vein, right?
hmm
And outside of that, they're going to tell the person that we're going to refer you to a dietitian, and the dietitian, again, like I said, is well trained to not go into whole food plant based. In fact, you can I've seen this, sit in a medical clinic or a healthcare facility and listen to the dietitians talk. You can tell them I've got a lactose intolerance. Oh, that's okay. We'll give you lactate. Never does it come up. You could drink soy milk, or you don't even need milk because you're not a baby or whatever.
You're not a baby calf. You shouldn't be drinking that milk
You're not a
anyway.
baby, period.
Everybody is
Baby
lactose
or a baby
intolerant.
calf, right?
You're
Like we're
not a
just
baby,
drinking soy
period. You
milk because we're
stop
used
needing,
to it.
right. You stop needing milk at about 1 year of age, right? So it's a very kind of twisted system.
I want to go into that too, right after I read a couple of these comments and hear your thoughts on that. And but Brooke said the medical system and anything related to pharmaceutical systems probably don't want cures. They want you using medicine for the paydays. And unfortunately, I say this a lot. Like if I'm someone who, you know, let's say I deliver food, and you may need me to deliver it because you don't have a car. Let's say I'm in that business, or let's say I'm in the restaurant business and you go out to eat because your kitchen, you don't have a kitchen. I don't know that that person would want to buy you a kitchen, so you stop coming to their restaurant. It's kind of like it's just it does become like overall, if you look at the whole picture of it, it is kind of it's a business, and no one says it, it's not spoken, but in a way it is that if you cure yourself or you prevent this, I'm not going to make money off this medication. So while we don't want to think of it as the world is that negative, in the whole scheme of things, if you really look at it, that's what business is. And when we put business involved with healthcare, unfortunately that's what happened. And Ariella said, and Ariella is a nurse or used to be a nurse, but she said, we do not learn about how to prescribe medication. We don't give the all natural way to be cured. Um, she was saying, no, we do not. We learn about how to prescribe
Mm-mm.
medication. My fault.
Right.
I missed the comma there. But,
Right.
she's saying, yes, we don't learn about that. And she said that
And
in here 2 weeks ago. She really did.
yeah, and to be honest, I mean, most of us go into medicine or nursing or physical therapy or whatever aspect of it because we really want to help people.
Hmm.
You don't go into medicine, well, you can go in it to make money, but you won't be there very long or you'll be miserable, right? Um, but we really go into it because we want to help people. The sad part is that what we learn in school doesn't carry, that's not how it works. It really isn't. We are trained to help people manage their illnesses with medications, treatments, and surgeries. Now, that being said, if I am in a car wreck and I have a broken bone sticking out through the top of my thigh, let's say I get an open fracture to my thigh bone, please take me to the hospital.
Exactly.
Take me.
I'm not putting that one away. That's why I said, man, we need you guys, and we
We
love
need
that.
it.
What
So if
they
I
did
have,
during the pandemic was unimaginable to step up like that. Like those are we just
that's
finished,
right.
talking
I
about
said
heroes
that
on
that's
Veterans
about
Day.
the
That is a hero
only
right there.
thing that'll get me in the hospital is if I break a bone, pretty much.
Well,
Anything other
or
than
if I
that.
get pneumonia, if I got
Yeah.
pneumonia, if I have spinal meningitis, if I've got I mean, there's plenty of reasons I would go to a hospital. It's just not the reasons that include chronic illness. I wouldn't
And
go
what
for lifestyle illnesses that I would not go to the hospital for.
Hmm.
Exactly, and it hurts me when I hear somebody say, "Well, I asked my doctor and they said that doesn't matter," because that person, like you said, set out to want to help people. I think that's what everybody wants to do. Like most doctors, you don't go decide to spend your entire day, and sometimes, you're it's long hours. It's stressful to go in and deal with a lot of people who are sick, and you're subjecting yourself to that and those ups and downs and everything. You don't do that if you're not at the core a person who wants to help others. I really do believe that in most
In
99% of
most cases,
cases.
yeah.
It's a shame that you're not given the tools to help people get rid of what they have. Hi Tara, welcome. Oh, hi cousin Tara and mom are here, and Becca. Hey. Oh, no problem. She said she's sorry she's late, had to get Bubba down. I love it. I love Bubba. I love the name. Um, that's what brings me to that talking about young infants and babies. Some people are like, on the groups I'm in. It's a shame because I hear so many myths, like I said, and they're like, oh wait, I don't I've heard that I shouldn't make my child plant based, or my child needs cow milk in the first such and such amount of time. Can you speak to your knowledge on that, whether it's okay to make kids plant based? In my opinion, it's it's necessary and you're doing the best thing you can for them.
Sure. So thanks for popping that question up. That's really good. I like this platform. I've never used Restream before.
Yeah,
So
pretty
can I
good. I
start my
like it.
kids on a plant-based diet from birth? Not from birth. Infants from birth take breast milk, right? So that's not plant-based. That's animal-based. It's coming from the mom. Mom can be plant-based for sure. So the mom needs to eat a broad range of vegetables. That includes fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains, beans and legumes, and mushrooms. Broad range and lots of water. That's the main thing that makes breast milk is water, right? So mom's drinking, eating an adequate diet and providing breast milk for the baby for the first year or so. Can go way longer than that. I breastfed mine for like 19 months each. Right about then, I was ready to tear my hair out. But
Oh my God, look, I did too. I did it for 2 years. And
yes, that's
I'm
at
telling
some
you, it was
point you just
crazy.
go, okay, I want my body back now.
Right.
Okay,
My
so
daughter, I literally had to put hot sauce on my nipples to keep my daughter from wanting to feed. Breast hot, yeah, breast hot. No more breast.
right,
But
no, no, all done.
it's so funny that you said that about the water because initially, right from birth, like right after I had her, within the first 24 hours, they were having a problem with her because she wasn't urinating. And they said, listen, we're going to need you to get a little bit more water intake because that's going to help her urinate. And I started drinking more water. Sure enough, she urinated fine.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So
I
water
had
is
no idea.
crucial. Water is
Yeah,
crucial for producing breast milk.
and now I
So
drink a ton of it.
once you start giving the child solid foods, like say you want to start with cereal, let's say that starts like around 4 months or something. I'm sorry, I don't have my timelines in front of me anymore. But you can start with um, making, let's say, a brown rice cereal at home. This is what I wound up doing. Brown rice cereal, you mash it down real good. You can mix it with breast milk and give that to the baby. Now, I'll tell you, one thing I find just amazing. I have a friend who was born and raised in India. In India, they don't have anything called baby food. That is a Western invention. That you'd have little glass jars called Gerber or whatever they're called, right? I'm sure there's other brands now that
Right.
we feed only to babies and it's already pre-pureed stuff, right? In India, the baby eats exactly what the rest of the family eats. So if the rest of the family is having some spicy curry dish, that's what the baby gets too, which is, I just find amazing. I love that. Also, the mom's breast milk gets flavored by what she's eating. So the baby, very early on, from before birth actually, is exposed to coriander and cumin and cinnamon and chili powders and green mango powder and all kinds of
Wow.
pomegranate powder, all of that because the baby is eating what, okay, breast milk, which is already getting it in the breast milk, and the baby is eating the foods that the rest of the family eats once they
Of the
start having
land.
solids, right? So yes,
Wow.
it's entirely appropriate to give a baby from their first solid foods a whole food plant-based diet. What you want to avoid are these highly processed vegan junk food things.
Yeah.
That is no better than, I mean, that's as bad as anything else you can give a child or anybody else. Just avoid the vegan junk food aisle completely and go for the produce department, which has everything you need outside of B12, and that would be a supplement that you would take.
Yes, I love the fact that you mentioned B12 because I didn't know about B12. I don't know how I didn't come across it. However, I found out later on that B12 is something that we used to get naturally on I guess the dirt that was on our vegetables pretty much, right? Like it's something that's in the soil, and when we started washing everything and the water actually is now purified, it stopped us from getting that. And I did read that women over 40 also can absorb it even more slowly. So even if you are not on a plant-based diet, it's probably a good idea to supplement with B12, which I was against like taking any kind of supplements at first. I went like so natural raw and I'm
Mm,
like, okay, wait, I need this. I'm starting to
yeah,
experience some of these,
Right,
these
right.
feelings.
yeah, the symptoms. Yeah, B12 is important. Yeah, it does come from the bacteria in the soil, actually.
Yes. Thank
So,
you.
yeah, yeah.
We
That's
got
really
another question here,
Is it Tara's
which
question?
Should
Oh,
I convert
actually,
kids over to a plant-based diet? I would recommend, as far as possible, you increase the amount of fruits and vegetables and all those other good things I mentioned earlier. Increase them as much as you can. Now, should you or should you not convert all the way over to a plant-based diet? I would advocate for it, but it's an individual decision, right? At the very least, 80% of your plate, at the very least, should be fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains, beans, lentils, and mushrooms. At the very least, fruits and vegetables. Um,
and what maybe
fruits
wean
and
them a little bit
vegetables.
at a time if they're not already on
So
it. Like
this is such
say
a
the
great
child's
question.
like 10 years old and they've never been completely plant based. What would your suggestion be there?
To help them transition.
Yeah.
Okay, so first, it has to be a family thing. It can't be that you're going to ask your kid to eat broccoli and tomatoes and cauliflower and green beans and all that, and they're the only ones who have to.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and partner or dad and partner need to everybody needs to be on the same page, on the same plate. Otherwise, the
Yeah.
child is going to rebel. Um, it helps
Makes
if
sense.
you have a conversation with the child and you say, we're eating like this because we know that eating more phytonutrients, plant-based nutrients, helps keep us healthy. It fights cancer, it fights blood pressure, high blood pressure, it fights diabetes, it fights obesity, it fights so many different things, right? Arthritis, oh my gosh, Alzheimer's, so many different things. So educate the child and then allow it to be fun. Don't make it a stressed out, awful thing, right? So let's say if it's a younger person, you said age 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you go to you say to the child, okay, we're going to the grocery store. This is the recipe we're going to use. Let's go find what we need. That's one way to do it. Then you have the child help pick out everything you need. Have the child help you read labels if you're buying anything in a box. You can also go the other route and say, okay, today we're going to experiment with red fruits and vegetables. Let's pick out 3 red fruits or vegetables and bring those home and we'll test them, right? Or you can do for dinner, let's say we're going to have a baked potato bar. We got baked potatoes, and here are 7 different things you could put on top of your baked potatoes. And you have red bell pepper, and you've got purple cabbage, and you've got carrots, and you've got spinach. You try and get the rainbow of colors in there and let the child choose what they want, right? So some kids will like spinach and tomatoes, and some kids would rather not. They want to have broccoli and green peppers. Let them have it, right? Have at it. And make it fun, make it light and easy, and congratulate them on being willing to experiment. Another thing you can do is um, work with them using what we call strength-based language, right? Encourage them and tell them, you know, I I want you to be brave and try new foods. Just be
Mhm.
brave. Just put it in your mouth and see how it is. Oh, you don't like the feel of broccoli in your mouth. But some kids have that oral
Yeah.
defensiveness, right? They don't like different textures. Congratulate them on being brave. That's
That's
excellent. You
great.
were that brave. So wonderful. And it's really okay because your mouth is learning new feelings and new flavors. And it can take up to up to 15 times for a child to experience something new before they accept it. So you just keep trying. Just keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, removing the stuff that's toxic off their plates and
Mm-hmm.
keep inching the fruits and the vegetables and the nuts and the seeds and the whole grains, the beans, legumes, and mushrooms, keep inching them forward. One thing, you guys probably know this already, but I feel like this is such a critical statistic or a critical point to make. In 2015, all processed meats were declared carcinogenic.
Yes.
All, right? All deli meat,
But
sausage, turkey, I don't care what it is, beef, chicken, turkey, I don't care, all of it. Hot
how
dogs.
many people have ever heard of that though, other than maybe me reading it in my plant-based groups?
It is the best kept secret in the country.
Mhm.
It's amazing. And we love our kids. How many of us would knowingly, intentionally, over and over again feed our children carcinogens? Nobody would do that.
It reminds
Yeah.
me of when we used to see doctors advertising Camel cigarettes.
That's
There
right.
was a time when we didn't know. When I was young, I think, our family loved us more than anything, but there was a point when it was okay to smoke cigarettes right in front of a child, and it wasn't like, it was in restaurants, it was everywhere. But then once we learned, and we're in a new learning process, I really do feel like we're in a revolution. We're in the beginning stages, but like more advanced than we were 10 years ago
Yeah.
of getting this information out there. We're in the infant stages of it. And something you said just really made me think what you were talking about to do for kids. If you're older, it's so important to do that same thing to yourself. Get excited about what you're going to eat, not what you're giving up, but get excited about, hey, I'm going to make this kind of combination tonight. I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy a whole new grocery list, and I'm going to try to make tacos that don't have meat in them, but they taste just as good with all my spices. Like, getting excited about that is so important. Like, you have to almost treat yourself like a child because you're learning something new.
Right.
And
You transfer that, you'll make the child excited if they see how excited you are about it.
True.
yeah, I agree that it has to be an effort, because not a lot of people are strong enough to just feel left out in the whole family and eat a certain way. Tara wants to know, have you all found instances of diet getting a person off blood pressure meds? Yes, absolutely. I know a
All
lot
the
Oh
of
time.
yeah,
people.
that's the
I know
purpose
it's
of it.
reverse type 2 diabetes. My friend at work here, I don't know if she's here tonight, but she actually just had her doctor after 2 months has taken her off all medication. The last visit, she reduced the medication. And she said, is there a network of holistic doctors? I believe there is, but I'm going to let
Yeah,
Meryl speak
there are
to that.
several. Now I can't really, I wouldn't necessarily call holistic doctors, but there are certainly networks of doctors who focus on whole food plant-based nutrition and using least invasive methods. They look at lifestyle. They'll talk to you about sleep and diet and stress management and staying away from toxic substances and things like that. I don't know, holistic, I wouldn't necessarily call them. If you are looking for a holistic doctor, you might want to look more at doctors of natural medicine. That's kind of a little bit different approach. Um, but you can certainly look through the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. That's one. You can look up the Plantrition Project is another one. PLANTRICIAN, I believe,
We'll
Plantrition
link these
Project.
for you as well in the comments or in the
Yeah,
description.
Yeah, we'll get it all linked up.
yeah. And then there's another one, Plant-Based Docs, I think it's called. But there are more and more doctors who actually are doing telehealth, because there's just not enough to go around. There's not doctors in every state, or if you live in some place like Wyoming and there's only one doctor to
Right.
cover the whole state, it's
Mhm.
kind of hard.
And then I'll just read a couple more of these comments. Mom said, "Hey, Dawn." And then
Hi,
Becca said,
baby.
"I breastfed mine for 3 years each." Wow, that's great.
That's
And what would you
dedication, lady.
suggest? There are some
Yes.
people who cannot breastfeed for what at one reason or another. Do you suggest giving the? I read on the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine that they talk about there's a soy formula. It's not like soy milk, but there's actually some type of formula that is still better than giving the giving them cow's milk.
Yeah, there are soy-based formulas that have all of the, the well-studied nutrient profiles that an infant needs. Yes. Yeah. Do not use something like soy milk or coconut milk or pet milk or any of that you just buy out of on the regular shelf in a grocery store. Those are not appropriate for infants. They don't have the right protein mixes or the fat content or any of the other nutrients that the child needs in the right quantities. So yeah, it's best to go with a soy-based formula if you want to avoid cow's milk
That
and you
is
can't breastfeed.
okay. That is good to know because I was wondering about that, what your take would be on that as well. And Ariella said the FDA also tells you that they allow a certain percentage of roaches, animal feces. Yeah, like when I learned about dairy, I did know that there was a certain number of something called, I think it was somatic cells, which ended up kind of like a lot of people say is like pus or the infections that the cows get from being over milked. Like there's a certain number of, there's definitely a way that you know, that's covered up a lot of this information. Pastor Dina, welcome. And Janetta and Jen, hi. Ariella said there are herbalists that focus on natural ways of living and healing from diseases and other things.
Right. Yeah. That's a little bit different than a lifestyle medicine, like licensed doctor,
Got
MD.
another question for you here.
Sure. Why are there myths that children need meat and milk? This is one of the best questions ever. Why are there myths? Because we have companies that make massive amounts of money off of selling meat and milk.
Facts.
And unfortunately, some of those companies are very closely related to pharmaceutical companies.
Mm-hmm.
So the pharmaceutical company also makes money off of it if they can get parents to believe that you have to keep eating meat or keep feeding your children milk or whatever it is. The kids ultimately wind up, at some point in their life, they'll wind up getting sick from it for the most part. Because those
Absolutely.
are still the highest sources of saturated fat, that and cheese, which I'll just say is like what they call that slow milk. Cheese is slow milk.
Wasn't there a lawsuit or a potential one that well, I know that the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine fought to get the meats, the one serving of meat or whatever it was, out of the FDA dietary guidelines, and it did become now a serving of protein,
Yep,
which can mean it's beans or nuts and seeds as well, which is a huge win. But the dairy one is seeming to be a little bit more of a monster for them to get changed because of the amount of money you know that's involved. I feel like, and the fact that we know that. I think they were trying to also put a warning label on it that it can have potential increase the risk of breast cancer. Is that right?
that's correct. Yeah,
I mean, I guess what clicked in my head is, and my family and someone very close to me, has have had and still have type 2 diabetes. A lot of people that I've known have struggled with this. Some even had to resort to like, insulin. And when I found out from Dr. Neil Bernard, I saw a video. It was in, I guess it's a clip from What the Health. But I've seen so many now things from him and Dr. Milton Mills that have shown me that insulin resistance and also the guys behind Mastering Diabetes, they all mention insulin resistance is what causes type 2 diabetes and not like we're all told that it's, you're eating too much bread because that's like talking about kids, if you ever seen a kid that pushes somebody back, but they get in trouble and you didn't see the person that actually pushed them first. So I feel like it's like the root cause of it is you're putting these high amounts of saturated fat, meat and dairy, and it's taking up space where the sugars were supposed to naturally go. So of course when now you eat sugar, it's being backed up into the bloodstream because it can't get in where it's supposed to, and it's described in the Mastering Diabetes book as clearing the drain. When you clear yourself out of, even if you lower your fat intake, or as she said, put 80% vegetables in instead of your standard American diet of what you're eating now of meat and processed, if you can eliminate all meat and dairy or as much of it as you possibly can on your journey, you're going to see that now your sugar can naturally absorb into your body like it used to when you were a kid, because most of us, we weren't born with type 2 diabetes, so it developed. If you think of it that way, there's a reason. And the pharmaceutical industry wants to keep you on whatever that medication is, and the doctor may only know to be prescribing you that medication to manage it. Like you were saying, in medical school, you're taught to lower the carb intake and to take a walk. That's, it's not taught that if you go plant-based, you can reverse it. And that's what I think needs to really get out there.
Yeah, I agree. There's been a long, long, long history of that uh, inaccurate explanation of what happens with type 2 diabetes. And now they know, it's about the amount of fat that we're eating. And fat is in every animal product, as well as the oil that we use, right, for salad dressings or the fry foods or the whatever we use it for, put it on popcorn, whatever we're doing, right? So if we take the oils and fats out of our diet, eventually, it doesn't take very long either. The body can clear the fats that are sitting inside the muscle cells. And once those are out of the way, then you re-establish your insulin sensitivity and back down insulin resistance. It's really very powerful, that one, that mechanism for how to reverse type 2 diabetes. It's very well documented.
Dr. Jason
Oh.
Dr. Jason Fung does that. He talks about fasting as a way to initiate that process and upregulate your immune system and to get your body back on track. And he has successfully cured a lot of people with diabetes or reversed their diabetes by putting them on a fasting regimen while he monitors them during the process. It's been really successful. I personally do a lot of fasting. I love fasting. But that also is a way to kind of cleanse your body and get your blood sugar to do what it's supposed to do,
Yeah. Fasting is a very powerful tool for disease reversal and like kickstarting your body. Very powerful. I like it too.
Meryl, can you talk about your well, I forgot we had another question. I was going to say, can you tell us about the summit and everything? But let's go for this one first because this actually directly relates to it.
Yeah.
Should we have plant-based food in schools?
Short answer, yes. Yes. There is no reason in the world. In fact, I'll just put it this way. I think it's sort of criminal the way we feed our children in school. There is, when we know what we know, it's not a mystery what happens when kids eat highly processed foods and stuff like that, right? And we're kind of setting them up to fail or to be sick at some point in their lives, feeding them the way we do, right? So I'll just take you on a little journey, right? So child comes into school, let's say they're getting the free and reduced lunch or breakfast program, which is not at all uncommon. And certainly during the length of COVID, I think everybody was entitled to the free and reduced breakfast programs in school, right? So the kid gets their Pop-Tarts and their cow's milk and their little cup of, fruits and maybe some more cereal and some more chocolate milk. And then we expect them to sit and pay attention and learn and focus and self-regulate and not act out and not jump up and down. Let me tell you, if I ate any of that stuff in the course of a morning, I'd be like trying to crawl out of my own skin, right? And this is,
Right.
let's say, a little 6-year-old who's trying to manage all of that, being inundated with all of that stuff, right? Okay, so let's say they do that every day, and over weeks, months, years, they develop a pattern of not being able to sit in their seat, and not being able to self-regulate, and acting out and jumping up and outbursts and stuff like that. Or maybe they're really sensitive to sugars, or maybe they're really sensitive to dyes, and that triggers other sorts of behaviors in them, right? And then before long, we want to put them on medications, and
Mhm.
then maybe that's not going to work so well. And at some point, there's actually a concept, not a concept, it's a real effect of poor nutrition, which is called stunting, which not only means that the child doesn't grow tall or big, it stunts their physical, their emotional, their psychological, their mental capacity as well. So, in areas where children, let's say it's a high density, high population of kids getting these in school foods, these processed, heavily animal centric, dyed and what they call heated, beaded, and treated foods, those zip codes are also the ones that are at highest risk for kids who have behavior issues, who
Mhm.
wind up getting in trouble with the school authorities, who might wind up dropping out of school. And then you're talking about the stunting of a whole zip code, a whole population of
Yeah.
kids. It's really very, it's insidious what we do. And
It,
and we know we're doing it. Now there's individuals who don't know because maybe they never heard it, but whole swaths of the government know what's going on.
that's what has made me so, like, I don't want to say cynical, but like, I guess this has happened since 2019 when I became plant-based. Not at first. I think for the first 6 months, I was pretty much just like, hey, this is cool. I feel a lot better. Having this, great energy. I feel good. I'm losing weight. I'm into this, but I was more on the outskirts still. But as you get into the groups and you read about, and you start to become like familiar with the deeper issues with it, and how you're just not, how can, it's an unimaginable how people are not hearing this information. That's how it started with me, why I wanted to like put my story out there. And then it was like, wait, why did I have to wait 42 years to hear this, that a plant-based diet can reverse and heal diseases, and why did I not know that this is the way the body was meant to eat? Why didn't anybody give me the other side? I
Yeah.
don't care that I had all the other information. That's fine because we're all, like, people that are adults, we can make decisions based on two sides of the story, but I've never gotten the other side. And I feel like for our kids, they don't have the ability to know both sides of the story because their parents don't know, and our government, if they're keeping that, it's like, how can I trust government? I know that sounds funny because a lot of people don't, but in that capacity, I think a lot of people do. They look to the government for these guidelines and for them to tell them what to eat, and they, whoever they are, this is what they say you should do. And it's
Mhm.
almost like people will get flat out mad at you when you dispute that, or you try to give them another. I shared something the other day, and the lady came underneath, just straight out said, this is hogwash, because of everything she's been taught. And I understood it because we all grew up believing these things that we heard from our parents, our grandparents, our the media, because they heard it from those same sources. And it's like, it's hard to have an open mind, but if you can, and you can open your mind up to it, it will be the most empowering thing you've ever done for your body and for your children.
And even like I said, just go with 80%.
Yeah.
Start
Do
with 80.
Meatless Monday to
Start
start.
start somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Try a couple of
80%.
things, like, definitely get excited about it. Get excited. I tell people that know how to cook, that know how to cook better than me, that they don't need Gardein to make the meatballs. They
Oh
could
no.
probably figure out a way to do it on their own if they're that creative with, like, spices and everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And and the other thing is too, every time that we use those kind of products like Gardein or Impossibles or Beyond Burgers or any of that, those are still highly processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not healthful. They do not promote health. So really what does promote health are the plants, the straight up unprocessed or minimally processed plants. Those other ones are still highly processed and they take a toll on your body over time.
You know
And then
what? And
eventually
I
what
like the
happens is we get 80%, like what we do is 80% plant-based, and our cheat days are sometimes those processed products, at least around
I
here,
was about to say that. It's like we eat that, and even though in the moment it feels great, I'm not eating meat. I'm eating something that tastes just as great. But after a day of eating that, or a day or two of kind of cheating and eating some Beyond or something, I feel like I've eaten meat. I really
Yeah.
do. I
You
get
can tell your body feeds off of those good
yeah.
vegetables, and you feel so differently.
There's a
It's hard to
difference.
explain to someone who hasn't tried it yet, but if you clear yourself out and go whole food plant-based for 30 days, you will feel like a new person, I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
Yeah, yeah,
Can
totally.
I just wanted to make sure before we ended too that we got in the information that's so important that we started to talk about, but we got
Okay.
off on these lovely sidetrack conversations where we wanted to ask you 100 questions. We're like, hey, we have an expert here.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
happy to do it, honestly.
but if
Yes,
you can tell us about the summit.
absolutely. So I lead a nonprofit called Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. I hope I said all that at the beginning. And for the last year, we've been focused on child nutrition specifically. Coming up in December 3rd through the 6th, we have.
Oops, did I lose sound?
What happened there?
I think we lost her.
Wow, how bizarre is that? Right there at that point.
Wait a minute, let me type to her. It's like, oh, you only paid for 1 hour of expert advice. No, just kidding. I did not pay her off to be here. Your time is up. I wanted to thank, while we're waiting for Meryl to get back in, I definitely want to thank everybody for coming. Dina, I know this is probably something that you counsel people on too, is how to handle this with their children. So I bet this was super helpful. And Ariella, thank you for all your important information, because it's important to have that. Like, normally we have Meryl here right now, but that, medical background is so important, so we can hear it from another point of view. And she said, based on your zip code, the quality of food that is delivered in your area is on the economy of that area. Wow, that is definitely interesting. Dina said this was super helpful. Thanks. And I think Becca, Jesse, Jen, Janetta, I know that you have little ones around the house. Becca, I know you have kids. Jen, Mom, I know you have Lily. Brooke, I know you're, directly involved in what Lily eats, and Tara, my little cousins. I know my little cousin he's gonna be plant based. He's gonna be like a professional speaker, Highland. So I know he's gonna get on board with us. He's gonna be on here talking in the next year. Um, and I really thank you all for coming and supporting the channel and for giving your input. And I'm like, family in the house tonight. Did Meryl ever re-enter? I think something must happen with her
Okay, here
internet.
we go. I think maybe can pull her back in here.
Jesse, you're still here?
There we
I
are.
can't remember if I mentioned you at the end there, but I wanted to make sure I got everybody in. I was like going back through the notes here. I'm like, thank you guys all for coming. And Meryl,
Can you
we
see
lost
me?
you, but you are here. Yes.
Yes, we can. We can hear and see you.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. That was totally my fault. Anyway, so the summit
It's all
is
good.
from 12:3 through 12:6, and thank you guys for allowing me to start over. 12:3 through 12:6, and we have 2 sessions today. We've got a total of 11 speakers. Session
Wow.
in the morning, a session in the evening. The morning session is at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and the evening session is 7 p.m. Eastern time. We have 3 MDs. One is Dr. Columbus Batiste, who is actually a cardiologist, but very knowledgeable about children's health and plant-based diets. We've got Dr. Yami, who is a pediatrician, plant-based pediatrician, and we've got Dr. Joel Furman, who is a plant-based family practice doc and has extensive experience working with kids who've had behavioral problems, emotional issues he's been able to manage and turn around, even kids with like kidney failure and Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, all kinds of stuff that he's been able to reverse or help children reverse using diet. We also have some educators who are coming who have worked extensively with children who had behavioral disorders who were incarcerated actually for being violent offenders in high schools. And this mother and daughter team went in and worked with these kids and were able to get them to calm down, stop the violent outbursts, stop being so angry, turned around their depression, had them just feeling so much better only by food alone. We also have 2 people who are focused on the health of the planet. Now, one thing that we don't talk about nearly enough, I think, is the connection between how we eat and climate chaos.
We did a stream we did a stream on environmentalists versus veganism. Is it one and the same? And the similarities. And by the way, there is a link. The register link that you sent, Jen, is included in the description of this video for the summit, guys. So anybody interested in that, the link is included in the description. You're welcome.
And we'll put it on Instagram. We'll put it in the main comments too, because I think some people look at the comments of the video underneath after the live comments go off. We'll put it in there if they don't know how to get to this description.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the summit is free. Well, wait a minute. Let me go back.
Yeah, go back to that point. Yeah, the permaculture thing. That's huge.
Yeah. So this is my own theory, and what drives me to keep doing this is that the way we feed our children actually impacts their health right now. You can see it impact their health right now. It also impacts their health as they get older. It also impacts the health of the family because a lot of what the kids eat, the parents eat, and vice versa. What families eat drives what farmers grow and what gets marketed. Our diet, our eating patterns, our choices of food, and all of that has everything to do with forests being cleared, the rainforest being in Brazil, Amazon rainforest being cut down and burned to raise more cattle. All just amazing.
Have you ever heard of Kevin Winder?
I do not know that person.
Okay, he's a guy that was a YouTuber, and mysteriously enough, he has not posted in almost 2 years. But he has a YouTube channel called Raw Healing Mastery, and he has at least 100 or so videos on there where he talks about going over to Ecuador and living at Fruit Haven, which is a permaculture that has taken land and transformed it from that cattle pasture. And they've taken like this whole vast area of Ecuador, which was being used for animal agriculture, and they bought half of it. And it's so amazing to see. The one side is completely cleared out. They've managed to regrow probably 85% of the trees on the other side, and they're growing their own food. They're growing all kinds of food over there, and they're trying to get people in the world to grow a tree, basically.
Right. No, I have a friend that lives in the Dominican Republic. She does the same thing. She grows food forests. So those are some of the people. We'll also have interviews, and we'll have cooking demos as well
Nice.
That's
during the
great.
summit. Yeah.
I
So
think
it's
that's important too, that cooking demo, because I find one of the most important things, and this is like a lot of the people I'm looking at here, that I have on my stream are not plant-based, which I think is so important that they're here and supporting the channel and getting this information, maybe even for the first time, because that's how I found out about this, was a documentary. So I feel it's so important to come on and talk about it, because if you don't, it's a cultural thing. It's really hard, if your whole family was raised a certain way. It's so difficult to make that transformation if we don't give people the tools on how to change. And like you said, some people argue that I shouldn't buy Hellman's vegan mayo or vegan spread or whatever it's called because it's made by Hellman's, who also supports the dairy industry. But if I buy more of that and we all show that that's what we're interested in, that's the way that we can get that to change in a sense. I also feel like we have to give these corporations a reason, a motivation to want to grow mushrooms instead of,
I was saying
cattle.
farmers originally grew vegetables. They switched over to doing the cattle,
And
farming
then
and
started
cows and
feeding
all.
all the vegetables to the cow that
Right.
could be feeding the world.
They started out growing corn and squash and potatoes and tomatoes and things like that. And if we show them, if the world begins to do what it is doing, becoming conscious of itself and becoming conscious of what we're doing to ourselves and the planet, and people are starting to say, celebrities, Kevin Hart and, you know, um, Nick Cannon, getting into plant-based restaurants and things like that. Switching over is huge, and when they see that, they will begin to go back to switching over. To your point, Meryl, they will begin to go back to producing that type of food.
We sure hope so. I mean, it's a bit of an uphill battle, but it takes
Yeah.
all of us engaged in it
Yes.
to
And
make
this
the
is
difference.
virtual. Is this the summit?
The summit is virtual, it's free, and it's live. So
That is wild.
And we
yeah,
have the
so people
link to
can.
register in the description of the video. Go register as soon as we
Thank
get
you.
off this live stream.
Now we do have an opportunity for people to upgrade to a VIP access, which will help us recoup some of our costs. I mean, the summit is not free to produce, so it would help
Right.
to recoup costs. But people can upgrade to a VIP access, and that allows them to get lifetime access to recordings of all of the sessions, as well as the one-on-one conversation with each of the presenters
Wow.
after the session.
Oh,
So
that's neat.
What's the
yeah,
cost
so
of
if you
that?
wanted to talk to Dr. Columbus Batiste and ask him questions, you certainly could. Or if you want to ask, Evelise Capot, who is a great chef, she's a pharmacist, she's a food for life instructor, she's been at this for a long time. You could ask her what's the best way to prepare tofu or, season something so that it tastes like Puerto Rican chicken and rice or
You
whatever you
already
want to
sold
ask.
me on it. I'm definitely going to the VIP. Look, I'm an easy sell.
How much is the VIP?
I think it's $47.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody that's in this live stream, is there a discount available? I mean,
I haven't built that in. I wish I'd have
Dawn's
thought of that.
working it. She's my
Yeah,
coupon.
right. I wish
hey,
I'd have
I'm
thought
like
of that.
10%
Pal,
off
right?
for Meatless
Hey.
Monday attendees
Right.
and code MM10 or something.
You know what though? I
Let
will
us
say
know.
this. Even organizations that are this important, I'm happy to give my money to
Yeah, it's
and
worth
support,
it.
because if that's going back into the cause and into the cost of getting this information out to everyone, I'm more than happy
It's
to,
well worth it.
donate. I'd rather do that than spend money on a lot of different things that we spend $47 probably, in if you look at it over the course of each day, what do we spend that on? I know real
Yeah.
like right now I'm sounding like that commercial that's like, for the
I
price
mean,
of
it's
a
a week
coffee at
worth of
10 cents a day,
Starbucks
you can feed
coffees. You know
America,
what I
right?
mean? It's a week's worth of, actually, not even a week's worth, maybe 3 days
I
worth of
Mm.
know.
Starbucks coffee.
I know. Now the other
Worth it.
thing with the VIP upgrade, you'll get a little like a goodie bag. It's all electronic. You'll be able to download it yourself, but it's got recipes and other information. We're still building it, in fact. was what all's going into a goodie bag. So there's a little, a little gift for those that do.
That is so cool.
Awesome.
Well, I
Awesome. Awesome.
definitely think, and that one-on-one, I think is a huge sell for that too, because sometimes you can hear a lot of information. You just want to ask that one question, which is why I appreciate, and I'm so thankful for you coming on here and like letting us and like Tara ask her questions and like everyone, these questions that we posed are like the questions that I feel like I hear all the time in the vegan groups. Someone will post like, should I feed my kids plant-based? How do I transition my kids? And those little like morsels of information you gave on how to help get your kid plant-based and get them excited about it, I feel like, you know, Becca just said, "Thank you guys. Definitely willing to start with meatless Mondays," or she said it a little while ago, and I'm so happy to hear that. If I can just get you to do meatless Monday, I'm telling you, if I could get you to clear out completely, it would feel so good. But some
Yeah.
people do things in different time. And if
That's
you
it.
find you can make something that's good for the family on a meatless Monday and everybody's happy and everybody's full, and then you can say, "Oh, I can see how I can get from point A to point B." It's like sometimes it's this big mystery. Like I thought I would say this on some of my streams. I thought vegans were from another planet, like Planet Vega, before
Right.
I actually got into what it is. I didn't know that vegan or that plant based meant that you didn't eat cheese. There was a point in time, like I had a lot of misconceptions myself and a lot of myths because we were all taught how to eat a certain way. And it's very hard to take something that's ingrained in you that you believe
Right.
as fact to be true
Mhm.
and to take your whole family dynamic. There's a lot of emotions associated with food, but what we've been able to do, like when we wanted to have that spaghetti dinner, we've been able to find a way to have that. The spaghetti doesn't have to be the same spaghetti that you always ate. It's that meal that's attached to that, birthday or that anniversary or that special occasion that you want. It's the memories that you're making with the people. It's associated with the food, but if you can find a way to make that same food exciting and really realize what it's all doing for your body, like it makes me sad to know that most people don't realize that the food they're eating could be making them sick. And like you said before, no one would ever feed their kids something that would make them sick or themselves, for the most part. We
Yeah.
all might have those cheat days, but we're not
And
going to constantly eat something and not
you
know
know
that it's
something?
bad.
Here is something that's even just as powerful, like what we talked about today on the Midday Motivator too. Food actually can affect the mind, and that's something that people don't even realize.
And
When
you
you
brought
put in
that up.
when you're putting certain foods in your body, it actually does affect your biochemistry and it affects your mind. So, you also want to take a look at that when you're looking at trying to change your thought patterns and trying to get more into a better frequency. It also has to do with what you're eating.
It
Yes, it
makes
does.
you really feel differently. Like, I mean, spiritually, like, I feel a sense of calm since I've stopped eating meat and dairy. I know it might sound like people are like, oh, whatever, she's saying this, but a lot of people say the same thing. It gives
It's
you such
true.
an inner peace and like your body, because everything is regulated, you're giving it the optimal things it needs. You just feel better. You don't
I
feel like
watched her
bogged
do
down.
it. I watched her do it. And I said, you know what? I want some of that peace. I want
Mm.
that. I see that you get, and I'm having it for myself now. I feel a lot better internally and mentally as well as physically because of changing over to, being a vegan.
Meryl, if you ever want to, I know that J&J is going to offer it, but just in case we, wrap up and forget, she does a stream every month or every weekday at
Mhm.
12:30 Eastern.
Mm.
That's called Midday Motivator, and
Mm.
you are welcome to join. And I know that she would probably love to have you on there
I
to hear
would
your
love
thoughts.
to have you on there. Sure.
Well, sure.
It's called Midday Motivated, and I just basically go on there. Jen comes on there with me, and we just basically talk about mental health issues. Me being a cancer survivor, for years I suffered with PTSD, and for
Mm.
the first 10 years or so, because I'm a 20-year survivor, so for the first 10 years or so, I really didn't realize I had a lot of this baggage that was in my subconscious.
Mm.
And when I finally dug deep and realized that a lot of the death fear and all of that, which we all innately have, but to the point where it's like, wow, it almost touched me to the point where I was almost gone. I ended up having PTSD behind that and not realizing it. And so I'm doing a lot of self healing. I have been doing a lot of self healing. The stuff that's been helping me, I'm sharing.
Nice.
So and it's been pretty effective. We've had some people coming in there saying, wow, this is really helping me deal with my anxiety. And so
Nice.
that's why I do it. I'm like, listen, I'm curing myself, and if I'm helping you in the process, that's what it's all about.
And I don't think a lot of
I have
people
a link
realize
to it as
in that
well.
process how much their food plays a part in that. Like she was
Yeah.
talking about these kids that can actually stunt the development emotionally and
Yeah.
everything of their mind. Like foods have things in them that affect our chemicals in our brain. Like I think it's I was reading like cantaloupes, for example, have actually some type of chemical in them that can open that receptor up for serotonin. They don't necessarily produce it, but I'm probably not speaking as intelligently as I could because I don't know the exact research, but I read so much how food can affect your mind, and that's why we ultimately feel better. Because if you think about it, if your blood pressure is high and you're not feeling good, you're emotionally not feeling good for other people and you're not in a good space. So once you get that under control, and it's mental too, because when I feel like I'm putting good stuff in, I don't have that guilt that, oh, I'm not feeding my body what it wants. It's like all a big cycle. And if you can, and sometimes you don't even know that you feel so bad until you actually clear out of that. Like that's what happened to me. I didn't know that I didn't have a lot of energy. I thought I was pretty high energy, but now I'm like, it's without coffee through the roof with plants.
I was
I'll tell
lethargic
you
compared
one
to.
other thing about the mental part. So we did an event back in, no, I think it was June, talking about the effects of food on mood, right? For kids in particular. We had a lady come on. She's a pediatric nurse practitioner who specializes in psychiatry, and she's all plant based. She was talking about how foods create the basic building blocks, provide the chemicals, the basic chemicals that the brain uses to make neurotransmitters, right?
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
this is something I'm a nurse. I got way too many years of school in nursing, and I never thought of this, never heard of it. She said that plant based foods provide the basic building blocks for the chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, melatonin, right?
Right,
And
right.
then you have these other ones, acetylcholine is another one. Then you have the other foods like the salamis and the dandelions do it too, fish, things like that, that provide the building blocks for histamine. Histamine is an important neurotransmitter, but we usually think of it in terms of like an allergic reaction, right? We're going
Hmm.
to take an
Hmm.
antihistamine to stop us from breaking out in hives, is usually
Right.
that, right? If we feed our children foods that are highly processed, lots of animal centric products and stuff like that, they wind up getting an overload of the building blocks for histamine. And they get none of the building blocks on the average child's diet. They get, less than 3 servings in a week of plant foods. And then they don't have the building blocks to create those other neurotransmitters, which are the ones who are going to keep us more regulated and more buoyant and more uplifted, less
Right.
depressed, right? So a kid on a highly processed diet is way more inclined to be anxious,
Mhm.
depressed. Um, there's even some connection with schizophrenia. There's all these
ADHD.
ADHD, there's all these things, all these direct consequences of
That we're
poor
yelling at our kid and we're putting them on medication
putting them
instead of
on
looking at the
medication.
root. The cause is the
It is
food,
so
the basic
unkind.
part.
It is
Yeah.
just so unkind, so unkind. What we need to be doing is giving our children healthy, whole, minimally processed at worst. That's the worst it should be, is minimally processed, right?
Yeah.
Plant foods, so that they have the chemicals they need so their brains can function. They're not stunted. They've got the ability to process and think and learn and sit and focus without jumping up and getting yelled at and getting sent out of the room and then referred for behavior disorders.
And then put
Right.
on some type of medication that might have some side effects or might make them, even more like lethargic or make them not themselves.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And the whole thing was like that root thing that you can do that's so basic, and the earlier the better, because think about it, I was like, oh, I'm used to eating this way for 42 years before I transitioned. Imagine if you are 4 years old. I don't even remember that much when I was 4 years old. So if somebody can get me excited at 4, or you can bring your children into this world of, hey, let's get excited about, this is what a like one of the things I did when I started eating plant-based was listening to videos on YouTube about the health benefits of this. Like while I was cutting the carrots, I would listen to what the health benefits are of carrots, and
Nice.
like got excited about it. If you can do something like that even to, help them get excited, or like you said, make a, I don't know, make a face out of the carrot,
Right.
something like,
Right.
let's
Make
go
a game
talk
out of
about
it.
red fruits this week, like anything you can do to get either yourself or your children excited about it, they will not have that hard time transitioning, and something won't happen to them. You're preventing disease,
That's
you
right.
know. So I just
Absolutely.
think it's so important what you're doing. I hope everyone don't forget to go register. For those of you that I know, I'll be bugging you with the link.
Well, I appreciate that, Jen, a lot. Really. The goal is to get the word out and stop this kind of cycle that we've started with our kids and our health and our diet and the planet, all of it. It's time to put an end to it. It really needs to stop.
Definitely.
Well,
And
thank you
I
so
mean,
much.
thank
I
you for,
really enjoyed this. This has been amazing. So
Yeah, well,
informative.
likewise, thank you.
it was great to have you here, and thank you for, everything that you're doing, like just overall, putting the word out there and helping get this out. And like this summit, I think is a way that you've covered all the things that a parent could question, or a school system, and you're putting it out there in like a major way. So I'm excited about this, and it's December 3rd through the 6th.
Yes, yes,
And we do have
yes.
a
December
link
3rd
in
through
the
the 6th, two
description.
sessions a day.
What
We have the
times does it
register link.
happen? Like,
It is 10 o'clock in the morning. These are Eastern times I'm giving now, right? So 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern for those 4 days.
okay, so it starts at 10, and like, and then you
Oh,
have a
it's from, okay, so 10 to 11:30 in the morning
hmm.
and 7 to 8:30 in the evening.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's, I was thinking it was like this all day thing. I'm like, wait, all those speakers?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
those guys are going to keep talking for that long?
yeah,
That's
that would be a
crazy.
lot.
I'm going to
That
get
would be
all kinds of
amazing,
information. Like, what in
right?
the world? That's great. So that really, those are two good times too, because a lot of people, if you work in the evening, you can go to the morning one, or if you can go to both and listen in, even better. But
Right.
it's so good to hear that we're putting this information out there, and like I said, the kids are the most important part of what's going to change this world. And you having the open mind, just being here on this stream, listening to this stream, if you're listening to the replay, you've already like helped your children by having that open mind just to at least hear the information. So thank you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Meryl
Absolutely.
and Don.
Don't
Yeah, my
forget
pleasure.
to
Anytime. Anytime.
Don't forget to hit the like button, guys, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And the link to the summit, if you want to register for it, is in the description of the video. If any of you would like to check out the live stream from earlier today that we talked about, the mental health one, it is also in the stream. So feel free to do that. And again, you know, go to the summit, get the information, start making a change. It's got to start somewhere, and you're going to get a lot of good information by clicking that link, registering, and attending, and especially if you take advantage of the VIP.
Meryl, is there anything else you want to say, like in closing?
You know, if nothing else, like I said before, just add one serving of fruit or vegetables to your and your children's plate every meal. Just add one more. every
I
time.
love it.
Yeah, just start with that. And if your children are pushing back and they don't want to, just encourage them to be brave and thank them for being brave when they do. And just
Awesome.
know that it can take up to, 9 to 15 times for a child to try something new and then finally accept it. Don't give up. It's their
Yes.
life. It's their life that we're talking about.
Awesome.
That's how important it is, and the more you research it, the more you'll see what we've kind of found out, and you'll just this light bulb will just go off sometimes. That's what happened to me. It clicked. 6
Mhm.
months in, I was like, "Wait, I need to get this out here. I
Yeah,
need to get this information out here. I'm holding it in." Jen
Absolutely.
said that is a
it's an
always
always
thing
thing,
for fruit and veggies. Yes,
right?
good. Janetta, you're welcome. She said, "Thank you guys."
Yeah,
And Dina said
absolutely.
this was helpful. Thanks. Becca said, "Thank you guys." Oh, I read that one. I was excited about her starting with meatless Mondays. So I hate, like, sometimes I was telling Dawn I don't like to say meatless Monday really because it's like we're thinking about what we're giving up. But I found that phrase kind of brings people to like, wait, meatless, what? It kind of
Mhm.
lets people draw interest. But I try to like always bring positive to what we're bringing to ourselves. We're bringing in all these foods that we probably never thought about. And again, like Meryl said, if you think about it too, most things that we eat are plants, or like if you look at a meal, you might have to only make like one or two minor adjustments to your meals that you're already having, even if you want to try more. Like you might already have spaghetti sauce that's already, you know, has is plant based. You might just need to switch it from that one with the meat flavoring to the regular sauce.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
just so many things that you find if you're making like a recipe, that you might just need to find a way to switch that regular milk to almond milk or whatever it is, soy milk. You
Mhm.
can make these little adjustments that will make a world of difference for your health. It doesn't take a lot, and we're here to make sure that there is a way to do it. And I was saying that too, if we can show people how to cook, what to eat, because I think it's a lot of unknown that makes people scared to try it. So I love your approach with just try one meal. Just try adding a couple of things to each meal,
Mhm.
and that will make a world of difference. But I know I've kept y'all long enough, and we all have to probably go eat now that we're hungry talking about all these veggies.
Right. But
Dawn,
yeah.
thank you. Meryl, thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime, really.
All right. Everybody have a great night. Peace and blessings.
Same to you.